So Gal Gadot in the DCU, that seems to be, something that's in flux. It seems to be a question that people have been clamoring to answer for months now. We know that in June, around June, let's say, she was on this big press tour for Heart of Stone. She did a bunch of interviews in magazines, with like online news outlets, with your traditional news media, and then in August, during the actors strike, a few months later, a lot of those interviews started getting released, whether it was on video, whether it was in a news article, whether it was in a magazine article. And in any and all of those, she kept saying, and on multiple times she even said, and I quote, that James Gunn and Peter Safran have told me we're going to work together on the one next Wonder Woman project, and it's going to be wonderful and everything, implying at the or certainly not, maybe not even just implying, but like, explicitly stating that she plans to be back in the role of, Princess Diana. And it seems like, with what we've seen so far with James Gunn's plan for Chapter One, Gods and Monsters, in the new DCU, is there even room for Wonder Woman like three, or another Wonder Woman at all? We know that the first two Wonder Woman movies take place in the past. So they're not super directly connected to the present day events of the DCEU. So you could potentially just retcon them into the new DCU. Or you could say, like, it could be a headcanon kind of a retcon, that the next Wonder Woman movie, maybe the third Wonder Woman movie in totality, but for the DCU purposes, it's the first Wonder Woman movie. And James Gunn has said that, there will be some actors reprising their roles from previous projects and stories. And under that umbrella, you could certainly count Gal Gadot as playing Wonder Woman. So I wanted to ask you, where do you fall on this? Like, based on all the evidence, everything that we've heard from James Gunn, everything we've heard from Gal Gadot, do you think Wonder Woman will continue to be played by Gal Gadot in moving forward? Is she gonna even be, maybe she's part of that new TV show that they announced for Chapter One of Gods and Monsters?
It's just like there's a lot of contradictory when it comes to these statements. It's kind of like he said, she said sort of thing, where it's like first she was like, okay, Wonder Woman 3 is definitely happening, and then James Gunn's like, no, it isn't. And then he was like, oh, maybe she might return, and then she's like, I've never had a meeting. So it's like it's just kind of like never really like a concrete thing of like yes, no, who knows? It's like the obviously the three we've gotten are Mara Dueña, Cena, and Davis. Those were the three that he talked about in his threads post. So those are the three definites. Now he did say those are definitely coming back, but in terms of who else is up in the air for the time being, it he did say that there's more stuff in the coming days, so it's entirely possible that there's like when he goes back to the drawing board, see what actors they have, who they don't have, and that kind of thing. Well, it's like, okay, not only are these three, but then he's going to confirm even more. So it's entirely possible that Gal Gadot is confirmed for later on. But I wouldn't mind seeing her again. I love the first Wonder Woman movie. It's one of my favorite DCU movies. I didn't mind Wonder Woman 84. It had a lot of problems and was very silly in a lot of areas, but I think it has enough like good in it that like I enjoyed my experience with watching it. Even with all the, more controversial aspects of that movie, but I wouldn't mind seeing her again. I liked her a lot. Even though she was never really a big like acting actress, I think she did great with what she was given, but it's sort of like it goes both ways sort of thing. I wouldn't mind seeing her again, but I also wouldn't mind the role getting recasted. It's just like whatever's best for this upcoming universe. That's again, I just want to see some good movies and good TV shows. Whatever James Gunn thinks is best, that's what he's going to go with. If that means Gadot coming back, then awesome, great. I wouldn't mind seeing her again. But if he's like, no, we're going to go in this direction, this weirder horror sort of direction, and I'm like, all right, cool. Then I can't wait to see Paradise Lost. So I think it's not definitive yet. It could be definitive in the upcoming weeks, but I wouldn't mind either way. I think she's awesome, but I also think there are plenty of other actresses that can nail the role, possibly even better in the future if that's what Gunn is going for the DCU.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's definitely room for interpretation here. Like, it's not, it's, yeah, there's been contradictory statements, and definitely we're in a situation where if you had to recast, you might as well go get somebody who's maybe like a better actor, if depending on what the material needs to be. Honestly, I don't know if we needed anybody like that's who more of a a thespian, if you will, to play Wonder Woman, because if you look at the first two movies, I don't think there's all that much that's being asked of her. And
Mhm.
Gal Gadot has improved as an actress, so I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think she's maybe what she was when she first started, like in the Fast and Furious movies, or like the first Wonder Woman movie. I think she's gotten better now. Like the Heart of Stone franchise on Netflix is something that she's leading, and while she isn't, again, like she's no Anne Hathaway or somebody like that who's gonna be able to necessarily pull off an Oscar-worthy performance, I don't think that's necessarily what's being asked of her in this Wonder Woman role either.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, I think in a lot of fans' eyes, like, she's really the only live action Wonder Woman they've ever known. She's and in many ways, I think, especially with the way they had her portrayed in the Justice League movies and the Batman v Superman under, Zack Snyder's vision, she was very well cast, and I think I wouldn't put her at the same level of Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, or Chadwick Boseman as a Black Panther, or maybe even like John Cena as Peacemaker level of perfect casting, or Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, or Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. I think maybe like she's the next tier down, at least in my opinion, because I think physically she's. Here's the thing, like it's one thing to physically like look the part and like have like the girth of like what we see a lot of comic book or animated versions of Wonder Woman, where you could see like them, you could just see the muscle on them. It's another thing to be able to know how to do action on camera well, and like how to how with your facial expressions, how you move, how you interact with people around you. Of course, they do facial replacements. They have stunt doubles, and they do CGI stunt doubles, so it's not like the actor themselves have to do all the action, but we know, like, like Tom Cruise, of course, like, isn't a good example, or I think Will Smith does a pretty good job of doing stunts, where you need to be able to, if you're gonna play an action hero, you need to be able to move well on camera, in a way that makes you look imposing, you make you look the part, and then of course you have to be vulnerable in those other moments when you're needed to do that for the role. And I think on both fronts, Gal Gadot's done a pretty good job. And considering that Paradise Lost is the only project that's Wonder Woman related, and it's set to be this prequel that, for all we know, like Wonder Woman doesn't even really exist in the timeline
Right.
during the course of the Paradise Lost events, or maybe at least season one. Who knows how long Paradise Lost will run? Maybe it'll be a multiple season kind of a show, like a Game of Thrones, and maybe like it skips across time, and then we see like a very young Diana in there. So it's possible that we continue to see Gal Gadot in the role. It's kind of like the similar to what I've been thinking about with Ezra Miller situation. Like they don't have to commit to recasting Flash at all, because we don't have anything Flash related in the new DCU from the new what's been announced so far. And then what's been announced so far might take them 5 to 10 years to kind of get through. So for all we know, like 5 years from now, if they decide to go back to the to the Ezra Miller and say, "Hey, man, you want to play the Flash in this new movie and be part of the DCU?" Who knows where he is, in his personal life, and maybe he's on a redemption arc, and it's much more acceptable to bring him back. Similarly with Gal Gadot, maybe she'll be on to other franchises like Heart of Stone on Netflix or other things. She's back in the Fast and Furious franchise with the newest movie, Fast X, this year. So she may not even have the time or the interest to come back as Wonder Woman, for all we
Possible.
know, years down the road. I know that she's been doing all these cameos recently in these other DC movies, so she clearly has an interest in the character, and she looks fondly back at it. She's mentioned as much. She's really loved with the work that she's done with the character. So yes, it's definitely possible that she would be very open to coming back, regardless of whether it's a year from now, 2, 3, 5 years from now. But ultimately, it's an open question, and like you said, James Gunn has hinted at a lot of news coming out soon now that the writer strike is over. Maybe they'll start
Yeah.
getting back to announcing more projects, more details. I know the actor strike is still going on, so
Yes, unfortunately,
they
yes.
probably can't do a lot of casting announcements, but nonetheless, they can probably still hint at what's to come. We know that they hinted at a few projects that weren't announced in the Chapter One Gods and Monsters announcement, because they were like, if we announce those, that's going to give away some spoilery details, which I don't know what that implies per se. And I don't know how to take that, but I guess if anything, that's intriguing enough to hope, be on the lookout for more news from James Gunn. Speaking of which, guys, let us know what you think. Do you think would you like to see Gal Gadot back in the new DCU, playing Wonder Woman, reprising her role as Princess Diana, as the goddess from Themyscira, or would you like to see somebody else take on the role, somebody who you might think would be a better fit, somebody who you thought might have been a better fit, even when she was cast in the role under Zack Snyder for Batman vs Superman. So let us know in the comments below, and like and subscribe for more content like this. We talk about all things DC and DC Comics related each and every day of the week. We'll be back here in the coming days, weeks, and months talking all about the new DC projects, Aquaman 2, Joker Folie à Deux, Creature Commandos, and Superman Legacy, of course, and whatever else we hear from James Gunn, Peter Safran, and DC Studios. So stick around and keep coming back and checking back for more updates like this.